Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube horror channel. I hope you're all doing okay out there right now. Now, in today's video, I really wanted to do a review on the 2002 horror film 28 Days Later, as it's literally one of my all-time favorite movies from the noughties. Now, I already did a top 10 moments from this movie that I posted on this channel a while back. Now, what I'll do is I will leave a link to it at the end of this video if you want to go and watch that. But I just had to do a full review on this amazing horror movie, and I'm also going to be reviewing the sequel 28 weeks later as well. So if this sounds like your cup of tea, then hit that subscribe button right now. So 28 Days Later, it's a Danny Boyle movie, and it's about a deadly virus that sweeps the whole of the UK that turns people into zombies, and not just any kind of zombie, but zombies that can run pretty goddamn fast. Now, if you get bitten by any of these zombies, or if you get any of their blood inside you, then you will also become one of the infected. The movie follows Jim, a patient that wakes up alone and naked in a hospital, where he goes looking for, well, anyone for some help. However, the whole hospital is deserted. Not only that, but so is the whole of London. It becomes quickly clear that something pretty bad has happened while Jim has been stuck in a coma, and as the movie goes on, Jim ends up teaming up with character Selena, and we are introduced to a very few different load of characters throughout the movie. Now, some of them die, some of them survive. Pretty standard for a horror movie. So let's talk about some of the positives that I love in this movie. First things first, the soundtrack in this movie is off the scale. The best way to describe the soundtrack is that it's gritty, there's a good use of guitar, and it's just so dramatic. My favorite soundtrack of the movie is definitely In the House in a Heartbeat, which is used in the final act of the movie where Jim saves Selena, and this piece of soundtrack is so iconic. You often hear it being used in all sorts of TV shows these days. Another positive about this movie is the unknown. I mean, when Jim wakes up, he doesn't know what's happened, and we are all left wondering too, what the fuck has happened? Now, the movie starts off as an apocalyptic feel to it, with that end of the world feeling that I just love. It's not just your standard zombie horror film, it's completely unique and different. And throughout the movie, you end up thinking to yourself, what would you actually do if you were in Jim's situation? I love how there is a scene where Jim is bagging up a load of money that he has just found on the floor in some street. I suppose you would feel slightly invincible and pretty much untouchable for a short space of time, and the world is literally your oyster. That is until when Jim first comes face to face with one of the infected. Another positive in this movie is the characters. You actually end up really caring about some of the characters in this movie. Now, two characters who are introduced halfway through the movie is father and daughter, Frank and Hannah, who are living in a high-rise flat where Jim and Selena, they end up finding them, and they all soon realize that they all kind of need each other in order to try and survive, and they end up hearing an automatic radio message from a random army guy saying that they have the answer to salvation. So they all end up traveling to this place in the hopes for some sort of better life. Now, the saddest death in this movie is definitely Frank. Something awful happens when he ends up trying to get this annoying bird or crow to pretty much do one, and as Frank looks up, he doesn't realize that there is a dead infected body up there, and a tiny speck of blood comes down and lands in Frank's eyeball. It's a moment that always breaks my heart because Frank, he knows that he is about to turn into one of the infected, and he tries to tell his daughter Hannah very quickly how much he loves her, and he then tells her to stay back. And Frank then changes, and just as he's changing, he's shot dead by a load of the military guys, and it's just a really tragic moment. I love parts in the movie where we hear a few different accounts of what happened when the virus ended up sweeping the country while Jim was in the coma. Selena and Mark near the start of the movie tell Jim about what happened and how riots were happening all in the streets, and then next minute it was in your living room. It tells a pretty dark story that is totally left to your imagination, which I am a massive fan of in certain movies. It works really well. Now once again, you end up thinking to yourself, what would you have done if this really happened? Like, what would you do? Now the zombies themselves in this movie are absolutely terrifying. I love how this movie is filmed when you see some of the infected zombies running towards a character and a victim. They move super fast and you can see that they are just full of rage, and it's filmed in such a gritty and brutal way. It just really adds to the intense situation scenes in this movie. You also don't know where this movie is going as it plays out. I mean, when Jim, Selena and Hannah all get to that army base, we learn that the sergeant, or whoever he is, he's got them all there under false pretenses. There is no answer to the infected, there is no salvation. He wants them there because he promised all of the soldier guys women. Yes, women who they can pretty much sleep with and carry on humanity. The film takes so many different paths as it plays out that it genuinely does shock you, and that's another reason why I love this movie so much. It's very unpredictable. Now the kills in this movie are brutal, especially when the infected get to a victim. There's also a scene where Selena's friend Mark, he ends up getting bitten, and Selena, she goes into full survival mode and she uses a machete to literally kill and chop Mark up just before he turns into one of the infected. I can remember when I first saw this scene, I was like, damn, don't get on the wrong side of this one. Now the only negative that I will give this movie is the quality of the filming, like of the picture. Now what I mean by that is it's filmed in such a gritty sort of way. Sometimes in certain parts of the movie it feels like the colours are very bland, and in parts of the movie certain things look a little bit blurry, like in the corner of the screen, and I just think that that part of the movie hasn't aged very well at all. I mean, in 28 Weeks Later, which I will be reviewing at a later date, that movie is filmed in much more high quality, like higher definition, and that one has definitely aged better in terms of the picture quality. But I suppose they wanted 28 Days Later to have that nitty gritty feel to it, which is totally fine by me. And to be honest, it doesn't put a downer on me ever going back and rewatching this movie. It's just more of a personal criticism, because apart from that, I don't really have any other negatives for this movie. Now, the ending of this movie actually ends on a little bit of a positive note. So Jim, he ends up getting shot towards the end of the movie, but Selena, she ends up saving him. Then Jim, Selena and Hannah, they're all hiding out in the countryside, which I believe is some sort of big empty farmhouse building of some sort. Anyway, an aeroplane is flying over the fields and they all end up running out with a sign that they have put together and made with some fabric, and they lay it down on the grass where it says hello. And the aeroplane sees it as it flies by, indicating that Jim, Selena and Hannah are all going to be saved and are going to be okay. We also get to see some of the infected slowly dying on the ground due to starvation. However, there was an alternative ending to this movie, and in the alternative ending, Jim is still shot, but on this occasion Selena isn't able to save him, and the movie ends with Jim dying, and Selena and Hannah, they end up walking off with their weapons in the distance, leaving us not knowing if they are going to survive or find salvation. It leaves the storyline a little bit open. Now, I actually think I prefer the original ending that we got on the DVD on this occasion. It gives a bit more closure, and I think they filmed the infected dying on the ground to give the hopes of maybe making a sequel, which of course does happen, and this is actually explained in 28 Weeks Later that all or most of the infected are now dead after starvation. And then they all start like rebuilding the UK back up from scratch. So I think that's why they went with the ending that we got on the DVD release. So all in all, I absolutely love this movie. I love the storyline, I love the music, the zombies are totally badass, it's unpredictable so it keeps you on your toes, and it's a movie that I have probably watched about 30 or 40 times, no word of a lie, over the last 20 years. So let's have a look and see how 28 Days Later is ranking on the Internet Movie Database. So over on the Internet Movie Database, it's got a scoring of 7.5 out of 10. And over on Rotten Tomatoes at the time of me making this video, it has an 87% on the tomato meter and an audience score of 85%. So this movie is ranking quite nicely on the internet, which I am very happy about because I feel that this is a classic horror movie. I do love the sequel as well, but I'll talk more about that in my next video. I'm just gutted that we never got a third sequel. It was definitely needed, and I feel this movie should have been a trilogy, 100%. Anyway guys, let me know in the comments box below, what are your thoughts and opinions on 28 Days Later? Are you a fan of the movie, or is it not your cup of tea? There are no wrong or right answers here guys, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so let me know all of yours in the comments box below. Okay guys, well thank you all for watching today's video, make sure you smash that subscribe button, stay safe out there, and I'll see you all again very soon.